I know that ever since I brought back Bops from the Basement, it's been this pattern of R&B and rock and R&B and rock. But this time I really wanted to go back to 1976 with this particular album. Before we had Nickelback, there were the Eagles, who got an overwhelming amount of flack over the decades. And the most common reasons given are the song Hotel California being supposedly their one good song that gets overplayed, and the notion that they are otherwise quite stale. Now, Hotel California definitely does receive far more radio play compared to the band's other hits. And it really is because it's just that much better compared to the rest of their discography. It's iconic, it's legendary, it's culturally and artistically significant, it moves the masses. I completely get it. But this does not mean that we should be writing off their other songs. This is my bias seeping through just a little bit, but I grew up listening to this album. Almost every single car ride was punctuated by Hotel California. And let me tell you something, considering that some of the albums I've been looking at since revitalizing this series, I've noted are suitable for car rides, this album epitomizes that. Listening to it again after a long time was a wave of nostalgia crashing over me. It reminded me of how carefree I was able to be in my younger years and how ready for adventure I always was. Of course, not all of the lyrics were appropriate for a tween girl to hear, but I didn't pay attention to that. Namely, Life in the Fast Lane, but you know that I was jamming to that anyway. The New Kid in Town was definitely my favorite of the bunch. And it still is a very easy listen, though I find the older I get, the more wistful it becomes as well. I do think, though, that a big reason why people may not be too keen on the Eagles, and justifiably so, is because they are wrought with controversies, particularly member Don Henley. There is a song of his I hear on the radio quite frequently, Boys of Summer, and I like it a lot. Even though I may not be a fan of him because of what he's done in his private life, for example, I usually just try to separate artists from their work. But I completely understand if others can't do the same. For those who are curious, if you're looking for an album that will occasionally rev you up, but mostly won't put pressure on you and help you to wind down, you really cannot go wrong with Hotel California. It is really mellow and stress-free country rock. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.